Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Opera webinar about the top 5 problems SIMS schools have with managing medical data and how to solve them. We'll be starting in a minute. We're just waiting for a couple of last-minute people to join the presentation. I'll be back with you in a minute. Good afternoon again, and welcome to this Opera webinar, how to solve the top 5 problems SIMS schools have with medical data. Thank you very much for taking the time to attend today. Before we start, a couple of housekeeping issues. You've all been set to mute to ensure audio quality. If you do have any questions, there's a question box in the right-hand side of your screen. Please log a question there, and in the Q&A session at the end of this presentation, we will answer them. And if we don't have time, we will respond to each of you individually with answers to your questions. We're also recording this webinar, and we will distribute a copy of the recording to you within the next week. My name's Tim Ambler, that's my picture, or at least it was prior to lockdown, and I am Operu's Regional Sales Director for the UK. My colleague Tom Owen is on this call as well, and Tom will be joining us towards the end to handle any questions that arise. So what are these top 5 challenges that SIMS schools face in managing medical data? Well, the first and most important is making sure you have current medical and up-to-date medical data. And particularly, in note to that, managing your liability by ensuring the information you have is consented by your parents as accurate and current. Quite often, schools are acting on medical information provided by parents at the start of the school year on some scruffy handwritten form that they've currently typed into SIMS, and it could be towards the end of the year that your data is 12 months out of date. For those students who are new to the school, capturing the required medical data is equally important. So the pre-admissions processing, you will hear more from Opera about pre-admissions in the next few weeks, but the pre-admissions process in gathering medical data from your incoming parents and making sure that is automatically in SIMS too. And once you've gathered all this information, how do you make sure it's with the people who need to see it, your school staff, your school carers, so they know what to do, who to call, and what to tell a paramedic in an emergency situation, particularly in these days of GDPR compliance, where it's imperative you cannot have unsecured data leaving school premises. How do you manage your parent community? Parents, frankly, get sick of filling in the same forms all the time. And right now with COVID, it's important that we manage effective parent communication. And as I said, how do you manage all of that in a GDPR compliant environment? I'm going to show you now the Opera product, which hopefully will address these top 5 challenges. But first, a little bit about Opera. Some of you may know us from our previous name, CareMonkey. We've just rebranded as Opera, and I've been with what was CareMonkey, now Opera, for 7 years. So if I do slip into CareMonkey rather than Opera, my apologies. When you hear CareMonkey, read Opera. But Opera is essentially a school operations and productivity platform. We can automate any paper-based process for your staff, for your students, for your parents, and for your broader community. We're going to focus today on some specific areas, particularly the key components and what made the care bit of CareMonkey originally, the gathering and distribution of student medical and emergency data, and in the case of SIMS schools, making sure SIMS has that current parent consented data automatically within. We're also going to talk about parent communication, vital in this day and age of managing remote communities. So I'll be showing you how parents can view any request from the school in any of 102 languages. I'll be talking about how parents will receive automatic reminders from Opera to provide the school with the information they need, because frankly, school staff spend a lot of time chasing parents who are missing forms, and right now, that's time you don't have. And we'll talk about Operou's messaging capability, the ability to communicate with parents via email, via text, or via push notification. Operou is strong at school digital trip management, and one area there I would like to focus on is the mobile and offline access. Point 3 on the list of issues was how do you make this information available to your carers and staff? With Operou, all a staff member needs to do is to log into the Operou system on their mobile device, and they'll have instant, secure access to all the parent consented medical information on the kids in their care. Now, you may well be saying, that's all very well, Tim, we're not doing trips at the moment, but this is equally relevant for co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities, before and after school care clubs, and indeed, if there's an incident somewhere in a remote part of your school environment. We can automate staff forms too, not relevant to this conversation, but would love to talk to you about that later on. And we deliver all this through one secure GDPR compliant platform. And in the case of SIMS, we deliver bi-directional synchronization with the SIMS product. And I'll talk to you more about that in a second. Why should you do all of this? Well, here's the reasons. Right now, it's tough managing a school environment with COVID and bubbles and track and trace and automatic check-ins and notifications. The additional burden of pursuing paperwork around the school community is just too onerous and needs to be reduced. And in particular, the chasing of parents to respond to the communication you're sending to them needs to be reduced too. You also need to run a safe school community. We can't have bits of paper floating around anymore. We can't have people coming to the school to fill in forms. And we also need to make sure our parent communication and our parent engagement is top notch. Parents need to be able to receive and view and respond to school communications effectively and efficiently. We need to do all that within a GDPR compliance environment. And as ever, budgets are tight, so we need to make sure we're saving money. Enough about us. Let's talk specifically about SIMS. As I said before, we have a bi-directional SIMS integration capability. Now, the Operou product integrates with various different admin systems around the world, but the current version of Operou is actually designed to operate specifically within the SIMS environment. In fact, when we rebranded from CareMonkey to Operou, we came pretty close to actually calling the product in the UK Simsly. We have lots of strong references for the Operou product. Here's one from Dean Innes at the Roundwood Park School, talking about how we've automated all of their permission processes and how we particularly flow information back from Operou into the SIM system. And as soon as we finish this call, I must contact Dean and ask him where he purchased that rather nice tank top. I do want one. But let me show you how this works. Enough of the talking. Let me go into the Operou product and show you how this works. And I'm going to show you how Operou works from the point of view of a school administrator and from a parent and from a school carer. And quite often, a parent and a carer could be the same person if a school teacher or a school administrator has kids in school. So what I'm going to do now is pause this presentation. We'll come back to a bit of that at the end. And I'm now sharing with you the Operou homepage, which I hope you can see. Not going to labor this point too much. You can come back and look at Operou anytime you want, but please, if you do get a chance, do come back and look particularly in the solutions section. We've got the top item there is relating to Operou for the Capita SIMS environment, and there's lots of videos and testimonials and product details there. Please come and have a look at your own time. But for now, I'm going to log into the Operou products by clicking on the login button, and I'm going to log in as an administrator at a school. And what you are seeing now is the administration view for my school, which is the White Rose School of Music. And you will see there that I'm fortunate to have a very smart contingent of musicians in my school environment. The point I want to make here is that all of those students that you see at the top of the screen will be automatically synchronized from SIMS into Operou. Whenever you enroll a new student into SIMS, that student will automatically appear in Operou. If you hold an existing student record for these students, i.e. there are existing students at your school, we will also synchronize the existing medical and dietary information into Operou. For those students who are new to your school, i.e. pre-administration students, obviously you don't hold that information yet, but nonetheless their basic student record will be synchronized to Operou. At which point, a communication will be sent to all your parents to ask them to either verify the existing Operou student record or in the case of pre-admission students, to actually create the Operu student record. And when a parent verifies that student record, or when a parent creates a student record and enters all the medical data and all the emergency contact information, that information will be automatically synchronized back to SIMS. So you don't have to go through the painful process of trying to interpret a parent's handwriting and then type all that into SIMS, which saves you time, but also manages your risk, because we're automatically populating SIMS with parent consented data. Down the left-hand side of the screen there, you'll see that we've got a series of groups. If your groups already exist in SIMS, then they will automatically be synchronized to Operu 2. As and when your groups change, for example, at the end of the year, then the groups will change in Operu 2. But you can create your own groups for whatever purpose, and you'll see some specific examples there. Obviously, some particularly relevant to the current environment in which we operate. So I'd like to draw your attention to the medical conditions. So we can create groups of students with specific medical conditions, and we can automatically create these groups. Now, I know on this call there are a lot of people with the title of school nurse or equivalent. Obviously, it's very important to you to be able to see which of your students have which medical conditions and be able to effectively communicate with your parents. So in this particular case, both Agneta and Chrissy are noted as having anaphylaxis, and we can then communicate specific anaphylaxis protocols and plans and procedures just to their parents. The other parts of the Operu home screen that I won't labor on too much, but basically down the bottom of the screen there, we have all the forms that we require our parents to sign, anything at all, trips, policy documents, information evenings, parent-teacher interviews, trips to the dentist, anything at all can be automated with the Operu product. And down the bottom right-hand side of the screen, we have a basic staff view, and this allows you to very quickly assign staff to groups, so staff have access to all the information on the students in their care. There's a completely separate side to Operu, which manages staff and groups and staff forms, but we're not going to be going into that today. If I now go back to the White Rose School of Music homepage, and I go pick a particular student, Sam Brown, I can look at the information that we're holding from her. First of all, I will make the note that down the right-hand side there, you will see Sam's contact details. This mirrors how you manage contacts in SIMS. In Operu, you get to determine who can view information, who can edit information, who can see what information. We also maintain a complete audit of any interactions between the parent and the school throughout the life of the student in the school. So we've got a complete audit trail of any changes that have been made to Sam's record, and we can maintain that for as long as you want beyond school. Now, Sam is an existing student in the school, so we have brought across her student record, and I'm now viewing Sam's student record from the point of view of a school administrator. Now, as a school administrator, you can edit this information as much as you like. You can add in contacts, emergency contacts, and so on. You can update any emergency information. You can update any dietary requirements, and you can update any medical conditions. So the school has the override capability to make sure that the information that you're holding is accurate and current. And even when a parent replies, you have the opportunity to say, no, that's wrong, and I've seen this before. I've seen a student record come back to a school where the school administrator said, that's wrong, need to change that, and go back to the parent to make sure they get it right. In the case of Sam, she's got a couple of conditions. She's got asthma and she's got eating disorders. So when, in the case of asthma, the parent is required to provide more information. And the information they're providing is determined by what they said yes to. So in this case, Sam has a description for asthma, a medication, and a specific action plan, her unique tailored action plan to meet her particular needs. Now, what I want to do now is switch from the administration view of the world to what a parent actually sees. So what I'm going to do now is switch hats from being the admin to being Sam's dad, Joe. I'm just going to do that by going to the Operu Central at the top of the screen here and switch to the dad view of the world. As I mentioned before, it's feasible that a parent could be an administrator, could be a teacher if your kids are at that school. So all of these can be merged into one essential, one login to the system. And what I'm doing now is looking at Sam's dad, Joe's view of the world. And this is where Joe would go for any requests from the school to fill in forms, to update Sam's information. Joe can access this information via the web or via the free Operoo mobile app, whichever's more convenient at the time. We spoke about managing exasperated parents before. This is now about making the parent experience much more smooth. And if it's not convenient for Joe to respond via the web, then he can respond via the app. Now, one of the issues that we face is communication with parents where English is a second language. Not an issue with Operoo. The parent can specify their preferred language by clicking on the globe at the top, and they can go and pick any one of 102, I think it is, languages now. Let's go and pick Polish and hit save. And what this means is now that Joe can view any school request in his preferred language. And indeed, I spoke before about our communications capabilities. When we communicate with Joe via SMS, via email, via push notification, Joe's request will be automatically translated to his selected preferred language. And so here we see a media consent form translated to Polish, which Joe can just fill in, click, respond, and off you go. Now, my Polish isn't that good, so I'm going to reset this back to English again. One other thing Joe can do is he can update Sam's student record. Now, I told you before that all the information is loaded into Operoo from SIMS, and a request goes out to the parent to verify their student record. Operoo will send out regular reminders to that parent until they do. So we make sure that the parent is providing you with current medical information. In this particular case, Joe has already verified Sam's student record, but of course, that's a fluid environment. Medical conditions change as the year progresses. So if at any stage I need to make any changes, I can do that through this Operoo central view. By, as a parent, clicking on Samantha, and now you're seeing pretty much the same view as you saw before of the student, but this is the parent view. And the parent can, if they want, add in additional conditions. So let's say, for example, poor Sam has developed anaphylaxis. I can click on edit and I can enter yes for anaphylaxis. Here we've got a sample list of conditions. There's another 100 conditions in the other conditions box. And beyond that, the space for parents and for schools to enter a further 10 conditions that we've not come across. So very, very flexible and very, very comprehensive. But I'm just going to add anaphylaxis here, and I'm going to hit save. Now, because I've entered a new condition for my child, I am required to then enter further information. In this particular case, I need to put in a risk level. The risk levels we have here match the risk levels you know in SIMS. I'm going to put in severe, and I'm going to put in peanut allergy. If an auto-injector pen is required, what is its expiry date? I'm going to set this to the 31st of December. Now, this is important because not only will Operoo send out reminders to parents to verify the initial student record, and by the way, we'll also send out 6-month reminders to them just to confirm it's accurate and current. But bear in mind, once they've done that, and if the information you're holding about their child remains accurate and current, they don't have to fill in the whole form again. They're just going to say, yep, that's right. So parents aren't filling in the same forms. The same when it comes to trips. We ask the parents to verify if the information is accurate and current, rather than fill in the medical form that's usually stapled back to the back of the trip request. Point here, though, is that we will also prompt parents for additional information. So in the case of Sam here, when her EpiPen is due to expire on the 31st of December, 28 days prior to that, Operoo will start to remind the parent, hey, this expires on the 31st of December, you need to update the information. So we're not just prompting for forms, we're also prompting the parent to ensure anything that's date dependent is automatically updated too. We can also add a specific action plan for this student. I'm going to find an allergy plan, and I'm going to attach that to the profile and hit save. And I can put a date dependent expiry date on that. I'll just say the 31st of December too. Now, that was just a generic plan, but that would be Sam's specific plan. And if the parent was accessing and updating the Operoo student record via their mobile device, they'll come out of the doctor, they'll put the new EpiPen, the new action plan on the bonnet of the car, they'll take a picture on their mobile device and they'll attach it straight away. That's all a parent needs to do. They will then tick, these are my approved instructions, and they'll hit save. And as soon as I do that, All that information that I've entered is automatically shared with the school. The school staff are notified. The student record in Opera is updated, and that's automatically synchronized back into SIMS. Further, any staff members who have responsibility for SAM will automatically see the updated anaphylaxis details. I keep trying to say anaphylaxia because one of my colleagues has made me do that, but we'll see the updated anaphylaxis details for SAM on their mobile or their web device. As Joe, I could stay here and I could respond to various other forms. I could make additional details for any of the children I've got in my school. I could respond to that media consent form if I wanted. But for now, I'm going to leave Joe as stands. And what I want to do now is show you again what a staff member would see. But I was going to first make a quick detour back to the administration view by going back to my admin login. And I'm going to log into the White Rose School of Music. This is the view you saw before. I'm just going to go down to the medical conditions now and look at anaphylaxis. And you'll see that SAM is now in the anaphylaxis group. So it's not a manual process here. Whenever any student is enrolled with any condition, you can automatically use what we call smart form capability within Opera to populate any group or any form. Further, we can link these groups to the forms you're seeing in the middle there. So say, for example, we had a school-wide anaphylaxis policy. We would link that to the anaphylaxis group. Now that SAM has been added to the anaphylaxis group, the anaphylaxis policy will be automatically distributed to her parents. Now, what I said I was going to do next was show you what a staff member would see. And I can do that, as I said, via the app or via the web. I'll show you the web version first. And what I'm going to do now is switch hats again from being an administrator to being a carer at the school. In this case, my colleague, Tom Ambler, who is a teacher at the school. And now I'm looking at Tom's view of the world, which, as you will see, is very, very similar to the parent view. And indeed, if Tom was a parent of a student at this school, then that student would appear there and Tom could maintain his child's information through the same login. And any forms that Tom had to fill in on behalf of the child would be here, in addition to all of the forms that Tom is required to fill in as a teacher at the school. As I mentioned before, we automate all of the staff form processes too. There's a couple of examples there. I won't go into that too much, but from Tom's point of view, if he was also a parent, then he can access that information via the same login. But for teachers and carers in particular, we provide an additional capability. And this goes down to point 3 on the list of challenges, making sure that our staff have got 24/7 access to all the information on the kids in their care, so they know what to do, who to call, and what to tell a paramedic in an emergency situation. So down at the bottom there, Tom has got responsibility for the pre-admin group, he's got responsibility for the Year 11 group, and he's also got responsibility for a trip to the Yorkshire Wildlife Park on October the 30th, which I should probably change to 2021 now. As I said before, trips aren't happening right now, but this could be a co-curricular group, it could be an after-school club, it could indeed be that Tom's on yard duty and walking around and comes across an incident in a remote part of the school. Well, let's look at this Yorkshire Wildlife Park excursion. I can see there's 10 students on that trip. I can see that 8 parents have responded positively, one's declined, one's not responded yet, so they're getting nagged. I can see any relevant documents, but I can also specifically see how many kids on this group have a particular medical condition. And if I go look at the Yorkshire Wildlife Park excursion, I can see all of those students. I can see there's Sam and there's Kate and there's Joe, and I'll see their student photographs, which will automatically synchronize from SIMS 2. And the reason we do this is because you could have an unfamiliar teacher confronted with a non-responsive child. They will have that visual ID as well. I can do lots of stuff here. I can do incident reports. So in these student logs, I can actually add incident reports. So if there's an injury or an illness, when we're not connected to the school system, I can log the information immediately in the Opera product. I can take registers. I can communicate with parents. I can add notes onto a student profile that we'll share amongst our colleagues. But in particular, I can see all of the parent consented information. So now I have the staff view. Exactly the same as you've seen before for consistency, but you'll see down here that the teacher, Tom, can now see that Sam has allergies and anaphylaxis and can actually look at her particular action plan. So your teacher has 24/7 access to all this information. Your carer has 24/7 access to all this information. Which you might say, that's all very well and good, Tim, but you're logging onto this via the web, so surely the teacher needs to be connected to the school Wi-Fi. Well, no, they don't, because they can access all this information equally via a mobile device. And what I'm doing now is mirroring my mobile device on the screen, and I'm going to show you exactly the same thing from a point of view of a carer, from Tom's point of view, but via the web, via the mobile app. Which has not been rebranded as Operu yet, so I'm actually going to click on the free CareMonkey app. And the benefit, of course, of an app versus the web is it's portable, it's highly secure, it's GDPR compliant, and it will work when you're not connected to the internet. So if you're somewhere where you've got dodgy internet coverage, no problem. You can view data you could previously downloaded to the device. What I'm going to do now is log in as Tom. I'm going to hit sign in. I'm going to sign in with fingerprint security. So gone are the days where the teacher responsible for an excursion had to go to the office, had to photocopy all the medical plans and all the kids in their care, and had to carry a brown folder full of all this information on the bus, and quite often leave it on the bus, a GDPR no-no. In this day and age, all a teacher needs to do is log in, and they will see the immediate parent consented information on the kids in their care. So what I'm looking at now is exactly the same view as you saw before, but on an app, including all the groups and trips. And I can go look at the Yorkshire Wildlife Park trip. I can see all the information you saw before. I can go look at Sam's parent consented information. And a further benefit of the app is that I can contact emergency contacts straight from the system. All I need to do is click on one of those numbers, and I can work my way through the emergency contact list to get to the emergency contacts that the parent has provided. I can see all the dietary requirements, and I can see all the medical conditions, including the just entered anaphylaxis, and I can see down to Sam's specific action plan. Okay, we're getting very close to the end, so that is as much as I wanted to show you on the presentation. Let me just go back on the demonstration. Let me just go back into the presentation again now. And just to go through the 5 key areas when the system loads up, because it's a bit slow, just to go back into the 5 key areas. So the top 5 challenges SIMS schools face and how we can help you meet them. Keeping medical data up to date. Automatic with the Operu product. We will synchronize your existing student record into Operu. We will make the parent responsible for its validation, and any changes the parent makes will be automatically populated back into SIMS for you. For pre-admissions, where we don't currently hold that information, we will add in the further step of getting the parents to enter and then validate the medical and dietary information for their kids. And as the child is enrolled in the school, that medical and dietary information the parent has provided will be automatically populated in SIMS for you. So you're not having to read a parent's form and type it in yourselves. We'll do that for you. Saves you time, manages your risk. We will provide information to all of our approved carers via smart technology, so they know what to do, who to call, what to tell a paramedic in an emergency situation, in a secure, portable, GDPR compliant environment that's available 24/7, even if you're not connected to the internet. We'll give parents the opportunity to respond to forms via the web, via the app, in whatever language they choose. And we won't keep nagging parents for the same stuff. Once a parent has provided you with medical information, all they need to do is validate that's correct. If it's not, they'll change it. But if it is correct, yep, I confirm it's accurate and current, and I'm not filling in the same forms all the time. And I'll do all of that in a secure, GDPR compliant environment. Okay, that takes me to bang on 1:30 by my reckoning. We did say this was a 30-minute presentation, and I'm actually amazed I've actually got it to 30 minutes, so that's a benefit. For those of you who need to leave now, thank you very much for your attendance. We do appreciate your time. We know you're hugely busy at the moment. But if you would like to stay, I can see from my little note on the side of the screen, we have a bunch of questions come in, and we'll spend the next 10 minutes or so answering any questions. But for those of you who must leave, thank you very much for your time. We will send you a recording of this webinar, and we will be in touch if you've asked any specific questions that we don't answer in this session now. At that point, can I bring in my colleague, Tom? And he's the bloke who's saying anaphylaxis, so it's his fault. Tom, have we got any questions, man?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tim. So one question which came through, what if I don't want to give all our teachers access to all student medical records 24/7? Can I limit it to just when they're on playground duty or just when they're away at camp?
Absolutely. So the school controls who can see which information at which time, and it is all audited, by the way, so we can check how many times people have been accessing information. So I showed you in the presentation, the demonstration bit, we had a teacher panel down the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Essentially, we allow access to certain groups, certain camps, certain trips to specific teachers for a particular point in time. And then we take away access from that group once a trip or once completed, or once they no longer have responsibility for a particular group. So that is entirely controlled by the school, and you have a full audit trail of any access of any information while a carer or a teacher has access to any particular group.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tim. Is there, we talked a lot about kind of medical consents and things like that. There's a couple of questions around, is there an option for occasional medical consent? For example, someone needs paracetamol occasionally.
Yeah. So we have the ability for a parent to enter all the information via the student record, but we also have the capability for what we call smart forms that a parent that can access on a temporary basis. I mentioned before that there was a smart form for a trips to the dentist, which parents can fill in only if required. We can also provide parents with access to a temporary medication form, which they can fill in only as and when required. So while the student record maintains consistency throughout the life of the school, the student at the school, there are also times when you do need to provide additional information, and these are all accessed via Operou's forms capability.
Fantastic, thank you. When parents make changes to their child's details, do staff have the option to view and approve this before it syncs to SIMS?
That's a good question. That is the question that we get asked all the time. So what the Operou product will do is it will automatically sync parent consented medical and dietary information into SIMS. And it does that because the assumption is that the vast majority of parents will do the right thing. However, some won't. And as I said before, I was at a school where I was implementing Care Monkeys, it was then many years ago, and a response came back from the parent, and the school administrator said, that's wrong. That kid's got asthma. And the parent had put no to asthma on the student record. So yes, we will write automatically back to SIMS on the premise that most parents are getting this right, but we will notify whoever the school wants to be notified when this has happened. So we'll, in the case of Joe, just then updating Sam's anaphylaxis details, that's now back in SIMS. But we can specify an individual at school who will receive notification to say, hey, this is what Joe's just done. And that person can, because you have complete administration rights at the school, can say, no, I'm not happy with that, can go back into the student record, can change this to how they want and require the parent to revalidate correct information. So to answer your question, automatic, but with essentially the power of override and notifications processes at the school.
Fantastic. A couple of questions on how long does it take to set up Operou?
Okay, well, because Operou is an automated process where essentially we'll connect Operou to SIMS, and we'll import all the student records or pre-admission students into Operou automatically, and we'll send a notification to the parents and nag them until they respond. It's essentially an automated process. Now, we have a committed implementation team and a support team available in the UK who will talk you through that process. But the initial training and setup, it takes a matter of days. So once we've connected SIMS to Operou and we press the red button, The gathering of information, the validation of information process is automatic, and you can use that time to build any forms and so on you want. But I've had schools who've gone live on the day that I've done the implementation, and indeed that school that I mentioned there, the response came through while I was still there. So it's a very, very quick, very, very easy process. Still there?
Fantastic. One more question around that pre-admission. Yes, yeah, can you hear me? One more question around that pre-admissions process. I'll read this out verbatim and then we might have to decode it. When a child starts at a new school, will all the data go via SIMS in a CTF as normal? If the new child has Opera, will this then be visible to them? I've read that a couple of times. Do you want me to answer that too, or you?
Yeah, go on, man. I'll try to write it down myself.
Yeah, we'll answer it more specifically, but for that pre-admissions process, you would normally get that CTF from your LGA or wherever you get your CTF with that other information for your new students who are coming into school. You'd load that into SIMS in the normal way, and then we pull the pre-admissions group into Opera. So then you can start doing that pre-admissions process through the Opera system. You don't have to do anything complicated with the CTF into Opera. It comes directly out of SIMS, but we can answer some more detail. And as Tim said, we're going to be doing some more stuff on pre-admissions over the next few weeks, which you can pick up on.
So the basic student record will come into Opera from SIMS, and a notification will be sent to the parent. We need you to fill in all these forms and provide the medical information. So whereas I merely edited the existing student record on behalf of Joe in the demonstration, the parent essentially fills all that in from scratch. It's a very, very simple process. It's a 7-step process that gives the parent a step through, and that then resides in Opera until such point as the student is enrolled, and then all that information is then synchronized through to SIMS automatically.
Yep, absolutely, fantastic. Another question. What sort of you did mention about kind of parents interacting with this. What sort of feedback have we had from schools about parent uptake of Opera?
Well, you know, parents' uptake is one of the drivers of this product. And I had a school so despite this action, I've been living in Australia for the last 25 years. And back in Melbourne one day, I had a school principal call me, and he said, "We've got to buy Care Monkeys," it was then. I said, "That's great. Why?" He said, "Because all the parents have told us to." All their local primary schools, the feeder schools, use the Opera product, the Care Monkey product as it was then, and we're telling him that he had to use the product at his school. Parent adoption is one of the key drivers for the growth we've seen for this product around the world. They love this system. They love it because it's easy to use. As you saw, all their requests, all their verifications are available in one area. They can access that via the web or via the app, whichever is more convenient at the time. They can access that in any of 102 languages. And we're not sending out repeated requests. You know, I automated a trip form for a school, and stapled to the back was the medical form. The parents already provided that medical information at the start of the year. The parents provide it at the start of every year. With Opera, they verify the student record and update the student record once, and only make changes if required. Yes, we'll ask them every 6 months to confirm it's accurate and current, but if it is, it's just ticking a box. We're not filling in the same forms all the time. We're giving parents access via whatever device they want, and we're presenting them with information in a format they want, in a language they want. Sometimes parents do get a bit sick about being nagged by the system, but it's important that you do, because the school needs this information. So they will respond, and they will make sure that they are sharing consented information with you, the school.
Fantastic. Couple more questions. I'm very aware of the time, but we'll make these our last two. So there are a couple of questions around, does Opera only work with SIMS or with other MIS? Or, and alongside that, schools who are using Opera, do they retain SIMS, or does Opera kind of take over from SIMS?
Opera is complementary to SIMS. You know, we're not a student administration system. We are a school process management system. Opera does work with many other student systems around the world, and in the UK we can synchronize data with, I think it's 14 different MISs. But as I said during the presentation, this was very, very nearly SIMS-like. This product was designed to match the student record and the parent experience of SIMS. So it is particularly beneficial for SIMS schools, but If there's people on the call today who use something else, we can show you how we can synchronize data with that just as easily to make sure that we're keeping our MIS and Operu in sync.
Fantastic. And I think we said we were going to be 10 minutes of Q&A. So our last minute, and it's come through from a few different people. What does this cost?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot. Okay, so Operu works on a subscription service. One of the beauties of this thing is that you're not buying all the infrastructure sitting on your books for 7 years and you can't get rid of it. For Operu, you sign up for a minimum 12 month, and we charge according to the number of students in a school. So smaller schools pay less than big schools. And for everything that you've seen today, all the SIMS integration, all the administration, all the forms, all the parent communications, and the availability of the information to teachers and carers via the Operu app, plus 24/7 support, is £2.50 per student per annum. And after 12 months, if you want to go again, happy days. If you're not, well, you're not committed to this thing. You're not